In a closed-door meeting disguised as an annual update, the PGA Tour just quietly detonated 95 years of professional golf tradition. What sounded like a simple schedule adjustment for the 2028 season was actually a hostile takeover of the sport's fundamental structure. For decades, the allure of the PGA Tour was built on a single democratic premise. Anyone with a set of clubs and enough nerve could theoretically shoot their way into a life-changing Sunday grouping with Tiger Woods or Rory McIlroy. That era is officially dead. Starting in 2028, the PGA Tour is splitting its membership into two distinctly unequal classes. They are calling it the Championship Series and the Challenger Series. But make no mistake about what this really is. It is the creation of a walled garden. It is the isolation of the elite. And it is a calculated response to a crisis that the Tour's leadership still refuses to publicly admit they are losing. If you are an ordinary golf fan, you need to understand that the product you watch on television is about to fundamentally change. The stakes have never been higher, because the currency is no longer just prize money. The currency is survival. The Championship Series will feature roughly 120 players competing in 24 events from February to August. If you are inside this bubble, you are competing for guaranteed multi-million-dollar purses. You are immune to mid-season demotion. You are financially untouchable. But if you find yourself on the outside looking in, relegated to the Challenger Series, you are fighting a desperate, season-long war of attrition just to earn a seat back at the adult table. This is not a development league. This is a quarantine zone. If you enjoy real golf analysis without the clickbait, subscribe and join the conversation. To understand why this is happening, you have to look past the press releases and follow the money. Because right now, the money is terrified. Who wins in this new arrangement? The undeniable victors are the top 90 players who managed to lock in their Championship Series status. By capping the elite fields at 120 players and guaranteeing that 90 of them retain their cards strictly through a season-long points list, the PGA Tour has essentially franchised its top talent. They have built a financial fortress around their biggest assets to ensure they never pick up the phone when the Saudis call again. But every fortress requires a moat, and that moat is being filled with the bodies of the middle-class tour pro. The losers in this scenario are the journeymen. Think of a player who has a bad slump, an untimely injury, or a swing change that takes 6 months to click. In the old system, a single hot week could save your season. In the 2028 system, a bad season exiles you to the Challenger Series for an entire calendar year. There is no in-season crossover, no mid-year promotions. If you fall out of the top tier, you vanish from the premier broadcasts for 12 months. And then there is the profit margin. The PGA Tour has mandated a minimum $20 million purse for these championship events. Who profits? The elite players and the super agents who negotiate their contracts. But who loses leverage? The legacy title sponsors. For decades, companies paid reasonable fees to sponsor local tour stops, gaining massive regional goodwill and national television exposure. Now the entry fee has skyrocketed. The tour is actively pricing out its long-term corporate partners who simply cannot justify the ROI of a $20 million purse just to ensure a top-tier field shows up. The tour knows this. They are willing to sacrifice the old guard of sponsors to cater to the new reality of hyperinflated sports economics. The hidden agenda isn't about creating better golf. It is about creating a product so dense with guaranteed star power that television networks have no choice but to pay premium broadcasting rights, effectively funding the tour's war chest against rival leagues. Behind closed doors in Ponte Vedra Beach, a very different conversation is happening than the one being fed to the media. The timing of this 2028 schedule overhaul is not coincidental. It is a highly calculated geopolitical strike in the ongoing golf civil war. Right now, LIV Golf is facing an existential threat. The novelty has worn off, television ratings are virtually non-existent, and rumors are swirling that their bottomless funding may eventually face a harsh reality check. The PGA Tour smells blood in the water. This two-tier system is the Tour's endgame strategy. By establishing the Challenger Series, a highly competitive, televised league with respectable $4 million purses, the PGA Tour has secretly built a decompression chamber for LIV defectors. Think about the boardroom politics at play. The PGA Tour cannot simply welcome back defectors with open arms. It would trigger a mutiny among the loyalists who turned down hundreds of millions of dollars to stay. But the Tour also desperately needs the eyeballs that a Bryson DeChambeau or a Cameron Smith brings. The solution? Weaponized meritocracy. If LIV folds, or if contracts expire, the Tour can point those players to the Challenger Series. They will say, "You want back in? Earn it." This satisfies the loyalists, who get to stay in their protected $20 million championship bubbles. It humiliates the defectors just enough to assert dominance. And, crucially, it generates massive television ratings for the Challenger Series, because fans will absolutely tune in to watch a desperate superstar fight for their professional life against hungry up-and-comers. Agents are currently scrambling. Player advisory council meetings are tense. The silent understanding among the elite is that they have successfully pulled the ladder up behind them, leaving the rest of the golf world to fight over the scraps. This structural earthquake will permanently alter the trajectory of every professional golfer's career. When 2028 arrives, the ripple effects will touch every corner of the game. First, consider the Tour Championship. For years, the FedEx Cup finale at East Lake has felt stale, plagued by a confusing staggered stroke format that fans tolerate rather than love. The Tour is finally pulling the trigger on the one format that breeds pure, unadulterated drama. Match play. But they aren't just changing the format, they are weaponizing the venues. By rotating the Tour Championship to legendary, ultra-exclusive courses that have never hosted modern PGA Tour events, rumors are heavily pointing toward architectural holy grails like Pine Valley or Cypress Point. The Tour is creating a television spectacle that even casual fans cannot ignore. Imagine the top players in the world settling a season-long feud in a sudden death match play bracket at a venue the public is normally forbidden from seeing. It is brilliant, manipulative programming. But the future is dark for the player who gets relegated. If a household name, let's say a Jordan Spieth or a Max Homa, has a disastrous year and falls out of the top 90, the consequences are fatal. They will be demoted to the Challenger Series. What happens to their sponsorships? Under Armour or Titleist didn't sign multi-million-dollar contracts to have their logos broadcast on Thursday mornings in alternate field events. Brand values will plummet. Exemption statuses will evaporate. The pressure will be suffocating. The fall series will no longer be a sleepy postseason cash grab. It will be a high-stakes survival tournament. Players will be fighting for their livelihoods in exotic international events, desperately trying to amass enough points to cross the threshold back into the championship tier. The era of the comfortable, middle-of-the-pack Tour pro, collecting $500,000 a year to finish 40th every week is over. You either win or you vanish. In all the press conferences, in all the carefully worded statements from Tour executives, there is one critical statistic they are aggressively avoiding: 264. That is the total number of players who will be permitted to exist within the newly defined PGA Tour ecosystem. 120 players in the Championship Series, 144 players in the Challenger Series. Why does this number matter? Because it represents a ruthless, mathematical culling of the professional ranks. For the last century, professional golf has operated on the illusion of infinite opportunity. Between Monday qualifiers, sponsor exemptions, and the sprawling Korn Ferry Tour pathways, there was always a sense that the gates were at least partially open. By hard capping the two leagues at 264 total players with zero in-season crossover, the PGA Tour is doing something it has never done before. It is setting a hard capacity limit on relevance. The media is ignoring this because they are blinded by the shiny object of match play and $20 million purses. But the reality is that the gap between player number 264 and player number 265 is no longer just a few FedEx Cup points. It is a chasm between being a professional athlete and looking for a new career. If you are not inside that 264-player threshold, you are completely cut off from the global television product. The Korn Ferry Tour will still exist beneath this, but it will be further removed from the spotlight than ever before. It becomes a true minor league, a AA affiliate in a sport that used to pride itself on immediate, explosive ascensions. This number fundamentally changes the story. It proves that the tour is no longer interested in growing the game. They are interested in consolidating the product. While the boardroom politics grab the headlines, serious golf fans need to understand how this separation of classes will dictate the technical reality inside the ropes. When you reduce a field to 120 elite players in the championship series, you change how a golf course must be defended. The TV broadcast won't explicitly tell you this, but course superintendents and tour officials set up courses based heavily on field dispersion. In a standard 144-man field with varying skill levels, you cannot trick up a golf course too severely without causing 6-hour rounds and unwatchable television. But when you distill the field to only the absolute best ball strikers on the planet, players who consistently register positive strokes gained, approach and maintain optimal launch conditions under pressure, the tour will have no choice but to bite back. Expect the championship series to adopt major championship-level course setups. We are talking narrowed landing zones that punish driving dispersion. We are talking rough heights pushed to 3.5 inches, pin placements tucked tightly against short-sighted slopes. Because these players hit their apex windows with such robotic consistency, the only way to separate them is to manufacture extreme physiological stress on the golf course. Conversely, the Challenger Series will become a statistical shootout. With players desperate to accrue points for promotion, aggressive play will be mandatory. You cannot conservatively par your way back to the Championship Series. The data will show a massive spike in aggressive club paths and players chasing smash factor to overwhelm softer setups. The TV broadcast will show you the birdies, but the shot link data will tell the real story. One league is playing a game of surgical survival, while the other is playing a frantic game of high-speed drag racing. The PGA Tour did not make these changes because they wanted to. They made them because they were backed into a corner, staring down the barrel of irrelevance. So, what matters most? Control. The PGA Tour has finally realized that in the modern era of sports entertainment, scarcity is far more valuable than volume. By shrinking the product, protecting the stars, and gamifying the bottom tier with the threat of relegation, they have built a self-sustaining drama machine. Who emerges stronger? The top 90 players in the world. They have effectively unionized without forming a union. They have secured their financial futures, dictated their schedules, and built a wall that keeps the desperate masses at bay. Who is in danger? The aging veteran, the slow starter, the late bloomer. The margin for error in professional golf has just been erased. If you lose your form in 2028, the system will instantly spit you out into the Challenger Series, out of the spotlight and away from the sponsor money. The irony of this entire saga is that to defeat LIV Golf, the PGA Tour had to become LIV Golf. They adopted the smaller fields, the guaranteed money, and the closed-shop mentality they spent 2 years criticizing. The war may be ending, but the real bloodshed is just about to begin in the middle of the pack. When a former major champion is standing on the 18th tee of a Challenger Series event, needing a birdie just to earn his way back onto the real PGA Tour, will he be thinking about the money, or will he be realizing that he traded his freedom for a golden cage?